Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Farms. My name is Jerry, and I appreciate you coming back here on the farm with us. Just happened to notice something just a few minutes ago. I was kind of out in my backyard here, walking around, and happened to find the beehive. Um, Stevie stuck the beehive back here, sort of out of the way, but yeah, there it is. I had actually been looking for this and didn't know where it was. But then again, I hadn't really taken the time to walk out back behind these buildings and say, oh, looky there. Look what we found. Another gold coin. Boy, that was like right there where it easily could have been seen running the pressure washer. But yeah, I'll admit I have not spent a great deal of time just sort of walking around and appreciating the beauty of this map, Paradise Hills, by the wonderful, highly talented developer, mod developer Stevie. And yeah, so it does pay. I suppose it pays to discover. Wait, I think that's a tagline that maybe I should not say on this video. That's like Discover Cards tagline, right? It pays to discover. Um, well, okay, maybe they won't watch this. They won't hear me say that, um, and I won't get in trouble for it. But yeah, so so here's sort of the deal. We're in a new day. It is day 9. The last time we were together, it was day 8, and it was still morning in day 8. And so today, yeah, it's day 9. The reason why it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon is because we had our first rain. I'm just gonna kind of jog over here. We had our first rain on Paradise Hills this morning. Woke up, the morning was beautiful, and as I fast forwarded through the evening hours, through the night hours, and to the morning hours, it started tipping down with rain. Um, so yeah, so we had our first rain on Paradise Hills. So we're going to today's going to kind of be a little different hodgepodge of different things that we're going to do. We're gonna mow. Not sure really what how the rain is going to affect our ability to mow. I doubt very much, and it's a job that we need to do here on the farm. We need some grass. Um, because you might recall that the last time we were together, I spent about a half hour, 20 minutes or so, moving silage out of the bunker here at the main farm over to storage. Hopefully, that was not too painful for you to watch. I think I demonstrated a pretty good skill there at running the telehandler. And so we're going to let this guy run on course play. So in other words, we're going to let one of our farm hands run the mower, and he'll also collect the grass as well when he's done. So let's just go in and find this is field 4, and we are mowing at 13.4 northwest to south. And we'll go ahead and turn on 4-wheel drive so that he doesn't have a problem getting up the hill. We'll better line him up here. And let him go. He'll fold up and move up there and then unfold and hopefully get started. He should be leaving a swath behind him. The coffee is good this morning, as it always is here at Paradise Hills. I'm enjoying my my second cup. In the colder months, I do tend to, let me just make sure he's going to leave a swath, and he is. Now, something that I learned from my very dear friend Reefy, 1952, Mike, is I sort of planted the wrong grass on this field. Now, because our time is somewhat limited here with this map, it's not going to be a problem. But if I jump over to let's say this guy. Now, obviously, okay, for the right reason, you can't plant grass with this cedar. That's a good thing. And if I jump over to one of the other cedars, you would see that there was two different categories of grass. There was your normal depicted grass symbol with blades of grass, and then there's one that has blades of grass with a line with lines through it. That the blades of grass with lines through it is soil mod grass. The regular grass icon is just the regular Farm Sim 15 grass. Soil mod grass is probably better to use if you have that option, because from what I understand, if you want to switch that field over to another crop type, all you got to do is cultivate it. You don't have to plow it to make a field. Um, so yeah, so that's that. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to, let me just check this right quick, because we should be ready to harvest our soybeans. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to harvest our soybeans. One thing that I need to check really quick, so just bear with me as I try to do this with one hand on a different computer here. That's not what I'm looking for. Bear with me. Bear with me. Continue to bear with me. Okay. I was just actually checking to see which header I needed to use for soybeans. And it is the standard grain header that we all know and of course love. And why is this guy sitting in the middle of the road? I guess I must have actually ended the game yesterday when this guy was still in transit. Oh, okay. Not a problem. Not a problem. So this is what we're going to do, because this guy drives a little slow. So we're going to say drive course and stop at next trigger activated, and he will do his thing, and we will go and get things set up. We're going to get in our lovely fin here, and we'll just disconnect from the milk tanker. Now we need to go down and move some of that homogenized milk around and sell that. So we will certainly do that. And what am I doing here? What am I doing? Why am I just all so scatterbrained? Here we go. This is what I want. I want our auger. I want the auger. All right. We get our trusty auger. I enjoyed using this thing a few days ago when we harvested the corn crop down here on field number 2, and so that's what we're going to use for the soybeans. That way we get a chance to use this again, because it'll be a little while before we get a chance to use some of this larger equipment. Loving this mud, Stevie. Loving this mud, and thank you so much, Mike, for turning me on to that. And of course, after that rain shower we had this morning, it's quite fitting to actually see that mud. Okay, we're gonna park this guy up right here. Just keep him out of the way. And let's see where our combine is. He's close, but no cigar yet. And take our International Transtar 2 here, our old trusty truck, man. This thing is, you know, no telling what it did in its past life, and it's working hard for us here down on our farm. Hopefully we can get down here before our combine gets over here. As I drive a little wild this morning. Combine. So we're just going to kind of do this. Just kind of block the highway for a moment. Oh, it'll be all right. Just get that International out of the way. All right, so I realize I'm sort of cheating here, but I'm going to use the same course for this guy. He's just going to park over here on this side of the road. So let's, even though he doesn't have four-wheel drive, it'll just help him. It'll just help him stay in control a little bit better. We'll have him drive the course. He may stop, or he may drive his complete course and then come back. Okay, he's going to stop. All right. So let's get our combine set up and get him going. We don't need course play. Maybe our header won't roll off as we park it here. What I thought I would do to make it a little bit easier for him is I would harvest that odd-shaped portion of that field up there. That's close enough. Thing folded up, unfolded. Come on, unfold. There we go. So we'll just sort of harvest this portion, this weird, do we want, sure, we can do straw. I'd forgotten that soybeans left straw. Yeah, we'll do this odd shaped portion here, that way the combine driver will have mostly a square field to deal with. So our soil moisture is a bit low on this field. I must say that I somewhat neglected this field. Quite honestly, I forgot about it. So the last growth stage, or the day before the last growth stage, the day before the last growth stage, that's hard to say, I failed to tend to it. So as you can see, the pK is 0, the moisture is low, so our yield will be whatever it is, and we'll be happy for it. And yeah. Need to practice driving a combine, to be quite honest, without the aid of GPS mod or any of those other fancy tools, because we're going to be doing a lot of combine driving for other farmers in 17. Because you know, you can hire workers on all the fields that you own, but the missions, well, as they are, they're a little bit different than the type of missions that we have in 15. But the sort of the mission system in FS17 now is where you're actually doing work for other farmers, okay? And I'm just going to pull up the F1 menu here, just 1 second. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to disable the swath. Go back to that and turn that off. All right. So we'll go down here and we'll get him started. Pull up auto combine. So yeah, let's have him do circles so that we can keep up with pipe on this side of the field and have him get started. All right, and we'll jump over to our Fent. And go catch up to him. All right. So yeah, so the mission system in 17, as I'm sure you all know already, but just in case you don't, you actually do work, or you can do work for other farmers. Now that benefits you because obviously, you know, we want to grow our farms, and one of the ways that we do that is through buying additional fields. And so you can, this looks like gold pouring out of here. You can do work for other farmers. So you drive around the map, and you will see, you'll see a farm for sale. You'll see this typical icon. The icons are not in the middle of the field in 17 like they are in 15. And all the fields are in some state of, they're in an ownership state other than you don't own them, but somebody else owns them. And so there's work that can be performed on these fields, and these farmers will hire you to do the work. And the pay that they award you with is can be quite handsome. For a harvest, running a combine harvester on a decent sized field with the time bonus, if you complete it within a good amount of time, you can get anywhere, you can get close to like $20,000, 20,000 euros or 20,000 pounds, depending on what monetary unit you choose to use. So it's a pretty decent way of earning some money, and it's a little, in my mind, it's a little bit easier than the FS15 mission system, because in FS15, in order to do missions, you've got to go to the job board, you've got to look and see what's available. If most of the missions either involve mowing or moving pallets of something from point A to point B, well, you needed to have a mower, you needed to own that, and you also needed to have a tractor capable of a front end loader attachment, pallet forks, etc. Well, the beauty of the system in 17, and for lack of a better description, let's just call it the mission system, for the sake of this, what we're doing in this video and everything. The farmer that is hiring you is going to provide you all the necessary equipment that you need. So, for example, if you are going to fertilize for him, he will provide you with a tractor, he will provide you with a front weight, and he will provide you with either a fertilized spreader or a sprayer. I think most of what I've seen have been spreaders. If you're going to harvest, he will provide you with a combine harvester. Now, the interesting thing about harvesting is that in all of the preview videos, the live streams, and the videos that I've watched, there's no tractor tipper that shows up for you, but you don't need that, because everything from the field will fit into the harvester. So that's a bit disappointing, only in the sense that it would be nice if AI would show up with a tractor and tipper. So you obviously would run the combine, but AI would show up with a tractor and tipper, and whether it really goes anywhere other than the field, at least the factor of immersion would be there, that it needed to be empty, instead of just this magic process that everything that comes off the field is going to fit in your combine. So that's a little bit disappointing, but only a little bit. It's not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker for me at all. What else? So anyway, as you do work for these farmers, if you work for the same farmer, and maybe each field has a different farmer. I don't really know how that works, but anyway, if you do enough work in each field, your reputation improves. Your reputation with that farmer improves, especially if you do good work each and every time. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, as your reputation improves, the price for that field also drops. So it becomes cheaper to buy that field with a higher reputation with that farmer. I think that's how that works. At least that's what I have heard through the live stream. So if that's not correct, it's because the person that was doing the live stream was misinformed as well. So that will be interesting. So my plan for 17, which obviously you'll see unfold as I begin playing 17, is, as I said a couple of different times in some of these latter videos, is I plan to start off in normal mode. With normal mode, you get $20,000 and you get 3 tractors, a combine, a grain header, you get a tipper, you get a seed drill, you get a pickup truck, and you get some seeds and some fertilizer. But obviously we're going to have to, in order to get our fields that we own, because we've got 3 fields. One field is planted, I believe, in wheat, and it's ready to go. It's ready to harvest. The second field is ready to seed, so it's ready to plant. And the third field needs to be cultivated, and then it's ready to plant or seed. But in order to seed, you're going to need to, well, in order to have the highest yield on the fields after you cultivate and seed, you're going to need to fertilize. So you're going to have to either lease a fertilized spreader or sprayer, or obviously buy one. And then at some stage in gameplay, fairly quick, you're also going to need to buy a plow, because fields for the highest yield, unless you turn that feature off, or just ignore it, to get the highest yield for those fields, you're going to need to plow the field under every 3 harvests. So, but the good news is in 17, I have yet to see a job performed in the preview streams that you can't hire AI for. So, well, let me back up. You can hire AI for any job that I've seen performed in the previews on the fields that you own. So, unlike in 15, where AI will not spray, I believe that they will actually fertilize spray for you in 17. I know that they spread, but they also spread in 15 as well. And they will plow. AI will plow for you in 17. And of course they'll cultivate, they will run a combine. They won't run a tipper, only because they don't. It's course play is not available yet for 17. But hopefully by the time you watch this video, the meeting between the courseplay developer and Giants will have obviously already taken place. And so what's the deal there is, as I think I said a couple of episodes ago, both of the main developers for courseplay was invited to go to Giants headquarters location and meet with them basically on release day, so Tuesday the 25th, in the effort to look at what would be required to get courseplay working with 17. And unfortunately, one of the courseplay developers could not attend because of work functions, work commitments, but the other one is able to go. So I don't know the names of offhand. I don't know the names of these guys, but that's good news, and that to me speaks volumes. Okay. The first thing it tells me is that a game developer can say that they're modding friendly, that they can say that they support the modding community. They can say that they understand how important mods are to not only the game itself, but to those who play the game. They can say all those things. And hopefully he will go ahead and go. Yep, he is. They can say all those things. But, do they really mean it at the end of the day? And I think that what this tells me, the actions that Giants are taking, proves to me that yes, they really do care, because probably of all of the mods that are available, and I'm not talking about map mods, and I'm not talking necessarily about vehicle or equipment mods, but of all of the well, they're scripting mods, so unfortunately that's gonna rule out courseplay for you console guys. But all of the types of mods that perform a function, so soil mod, um, auto combine, auto tractor, drive control, courseplay would obviously be in that mix. Of all of these things, and I'm just going to bounce over here and keep an eye on our international truck here. Good, he made it up the hill. Soybeans, on some maps, soybeans, the physics of the equipment hauling the soybeans is much different, because I think soybeans on some maps, and maybe all maps, but soybean seems to be much heavier than the other fruit types. So he's doing fine. So we'll go back to our Fent here. So of all of the mods that are available for the Farming Simulator franchise, Courseplay is probably the one that, without a doubt, is used by the most PC gamers, because obviously mods before 17 were never allowed on the consoles. And yeah, a lot of folks use soil mod, a lot of folks use auto combine, a lot of folks use drive control, and those will all be mods that will be missed for a period of time. But I think they'll come along in due time. And one of the components of drive control, the manual start, is built into 17, so you can turn that option on or off however you see fit. The tram lines or crop destruction, there's a mod for that that's already in the mod hub that's available. It's probably got scripting in it, so that may not be available for console folks. But it proves to me that Giants really are serious about the modding community, because they understand and they appreciate the fact that the most popular mod that's available for Farming Sim 15 is Courseplay, and they're attempting, and this whole invitation to go out to Giants, Giants is paying for this. Travel, hotel, food, I'm assuming, all of that good stuff. And that shows a commitment that, Giants is aware that Courseplay is the most popular mod that there is, and the features and the functionality that it provides to the game itself is something that's important to most of the players, or the majority of the players. And so they're taking a step to make sure that that is made available, and that's cool. That shows to me a level of commitment that is that can't be overlooked. Now, I think that there will probably be one more episode of Paradise Hills for you to watch after this episode. I'm not really sure what it will entail, what it will contain. You'll just have to watch and find out, because obviously the core of this episode is going to be listening to me babble on about whatever I've been talking about for the last 30 minutes or so, and whatever else I plan to talk about for the next 25 or 30 minutes, and then of course watching me harvest soybeans. But for you console folks, I'm getting a sense of high frustration from you, and I can appreciate that, because quite honestly, I think when the news first broke that mods were going to be available for console, there was no asterisk, um, there was no footnote or any sort of notation, or anything other than mods will finally be available for Farming Sim 17. Well, as time has gone by, there has been this concern based on um, what's happened with some other video game titles that supposedly were supposed to come out with mods that had some struggles and everything. And then, of course, we've learned that any sort of mod that has scripting to it that sort of changes the behavior of the game code, the main base game code, will not be allowed for consoles. And I think that while a lot of you console gamers want variety with mods such as tractors and tippers and combines and maps, I think the vast majority of you have wanted the variety of mods like Courseplay, Auto Combine, maybe Soil Mod, things like that, and maybe a rental mod kind of thing. Of course, leasing is built into the game, so that's going to be all right. And it must be very disappointing to you because all of the good mods, all of the stuff that I think is, really help make the game better, like Courseplay, like Soil Mod, like Auto Combine, those types of things, and there's more to that than just that short list. But those are things that you're not going to get. You're not going to have those. It's pretty clear that because these types of mods, have some level of scripting that changes the behavior of the base game, Microsoft and Sony are not going to allow that. And I say again, that's disappointing. So, for you guys, I mean, what do you do? If you truly are somewhat addicted to this type of game, this genre, what do you do? Well, my advice to you is, save your pennies and make the migration from console gaming, at least for Farming Sim, over to PC gaming. And I think that, by doing that, and of course, I can't tell you how to spend your money, but by doing that, you get access to a lot of other, excellent simulation-based games that probably don't have access to. And of course, you get the wonderful world of mods for those games like ATS and ETS2 and stuff like that. And it's not Giants. It's not Giants' fault. It's not Giants. It's not a limitation that Giants is imposing on you as a console gamer. This is, it all boils down to Microsoft and Sony, the console manufacturers. And of course, you'll also never have So not only will you not get scripting mods, which really genuinely change the gameplay tremendously, like course play and soil mod and stuff, but um, you also won't get equipment type mods like John Deere tractors, for example, um, because even though you will get modded tractors, those are going to be heavily scrutinized. Any sort of intellectual property licensing type situations, brand situations, anything like that that's going to come into question, Sony and Microsoft will shut down. They'll say no. And as a matter of fact, my guess is because Giants is obviously going to control that that feed to you console folks, Giants will never even um, put it up for consideration, because while we may have access to John Deere mods, they're not sponsored by Giants. They're not sponsored by Sony or PlayStation or anything like that. These modding websites that host the various mods, like um, mod hosters and um, you know FS17 mod, whatever the URL is, you know what I'm talking about. Um, if these manufacturers wanted to, if John Deere wanted to, they could shut them down, or they could at the very least um, send a cease and desist letter that says, you have X many hours or X many days to remove any reference to John Deere mods, and they would have to comply or run the risk of, some legal issue. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but that's that's the hard cold truth of it. I've been involved in the virtual airline business um, for a long time, since 1999-2000 time frame, and I've seen many virtual airlines that came into business or put up a website depicting FedEx or Delta or American or whatever, that these folks got letters from the real world counterparts that they were representing, basically saying, you know, cease and desist what you're doing. You are infringing on our intellectual property. You're infringing on our brand. Um, and even though it's a hobby website, um, and even though they may have done the right thing by putting a disclaimer down at the bottom of the page saying, that we're not affiliated with the real world American Airlines, here's a link to the American Airlines website, etc., they still got these cease and desist letters. And they shut down as a result of it. And then, of course, some virtual airlines went the extra step, like British Airways Virtual. Um, Back in like 2000, I believe it was, 2001, those guys that wanted to form British Airways Virtual Airlines went and had meetings with British Airways and got permission, and even got assistance in helping to establish that virtual airline, and they did a very good job with it. Their website was very professional. Everything that they did was extremely professional, and they went and met with them. And I've seen pictures of some of the heads of the British Airways virtual group at that time, meeting with the heads of British Airways, or their marketing teams probably. And while that is completely different than Farming Simulator, it's all the same. It's all about brand, merchandising, marketing, intellectual property, trademark, copyright, brand infringement. It's all the same stuff. And so it's just taken me a few minutes to get to what I wanted to say, but because of all of that, you'll never see some of that equipment like John Deere and stuff on consoles. It just will not happen. And if something sneaks past, which it may, because of human error or whatever, it wouldn't take long before that would get shut down. Because Microsoft and Sony, they don't want to mess with, the lawyers, the attorneys for John Deere and such, because both Microsoft and Sony, they're both very big on protecting intellectual property and copyright and all that kind of stuff. So, which it's sort of amusing because, you see these, I frequent quite a few online communities, online forums that are dedicated to, farming sim or virtual airlines or whatever. And just staying on topic with farming sim, I see these questions that pop up either in Steam discussion group or in these communities, and it's like, why don't you have John Deere in the game? Why don't you have, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, like I said, it all boils down to intellectual property and copyright, and until giants are able to sit down with the folks at John Deere and say, this is what we would like to do. We would like to incorporate your brand into our game. It's just never going to happen. And John Deere, from what I understand, they're just simply not interested in participating. They don't need to. So because of that, it'll never be an official thing. It'll just, there'll be mods available for PC because those sites are not directly affiliated with Giants. Giants doesn't really care about it. And unless John Deere or some of these other manufacturers choose to go after these websites, then these guys will continue to operate, the way they operate, and everything will be okay. And it might be completely different if we didn't live in the information age that we live in with internet and streaming and all this kind of stuff. But one of the reasons why I would suppose that these manufacturers like John Deere and maybe FedEx and American Airlines, as far as the virtual airlines are concerned, is worrying about how the equipment would be used, the interpretation of that by somebody that might stumble on a video or whatever, that doesn't necessarily understand what it is that we're doing. And if they see someone, if they see a John Deere tractor that you have, like for instance, if you're playing in Farming Sim 15 and you're running the damage mod, for example, and that John Deere tractor has a high degree of damage on it and it doesn't function as well as it would brand new, then obviously, someone might take from that, well, John Deere equipment's not very reliable if they don't really truly understand what it is that we're doing within this video game environment. And that's the concern. And of course, that same, it's that same concern with all of these types of games where they are trying to marry real-world, manufacturers like ETS2, ATS, Kenworth, Peterbilt, etc. It's all that same thing. With regards to ATS, I had once heard that somebody had posed a question, well, why does Why won't the vehicles get dirty in ATS? You know, and it's because, well, what I had heard was it was because that the manufacturers, Peterbilt and Kenworth, didn't want to, you know, have that depicted, so they want, you know, um, nice shiny rigs. I guess the good news for us farming sim enthusiasts is that, you know, the manufacturers that are sponsors in this game that do that, you know, Giants is able to license their equipment and everything from, you know, understand that hardworking equipment does and will get dirty as a result of the work that it does, you know, so it's okay. Getting a good yield off the soybeans, even though conditions weren't optimum. Also, some of the things that we've learned over the last, you know, 48, 72 hours or so since some of these folks have been previewing um, FS17, and everybody that I've watched, they've been previewing it on PC. But so in addition to, you know, scripting and stuff like that, which won't be allowed for the console stuff, other functions of the game. So, for example, the reflections, the way the beacons reflect off the equipment or off the side of a building or something like that. That's not going to work in on consoles, just because you guys don't have um, you don't have enough horsepower under the hood to make that happen. And of course, PC gamers know that, you know, there are limitations and sacrifices that, you know, we must make from time to time to sort of please that relationship between, you know, decent frames and decent visual um, representation and smoothness of gameplay and all that kind of stuff. I'm not I'm not a very I do not get excited about frames. Um, I will I will occasionally pull up Fraps to use it to determine what my frame rates are, more for diagnostic purpose, and that may be like once or once a month or once every couple of months, just to make sure that the game is that my machine is performing well, the game's performing well, etc. I will probably use Fraps for a few minutes on Tuesday when uh, when I power up 17 for the first time, just to look and see what sort of frames I'm getting. I can get a pretty smooth, steady 60 frames in 15 without any problems at all, and I'm setting at max settings on all of my graphics settings. I run the 980 Ti. Um, I've got an ungodly amount of RAM in this machine. Um, I've got a decent CPU, and we're going to do something right quick, just because we can. We've got some time. I'm going to climb up here and check out this fire tower up here. If I can get up there without killing myself. There may be some gold coins up here as well. Can we climb this? Oh yeah. If I were going to hide a gold coin, I would hide one right up here. And I'm stuck. There we go. That's kind of cool. That's a cool view. Too bad we can't go inside. Whee! Don't you love my rappelling skills? Alright, that's enough of that nonsense. Let's get back to work. No gold coins. I would have put a gold coin up there if, and maybe there still is one, but anyway. So where were we? We're coming up on an hour, and so I am going to finish this harvest off camera and then return back for possibly the last episode. I think it's probably going to be the last episode. I think I've got enough things to kind of keep us busy for one more episode. Things that I want to show you. I want to show you the milk homogenizer process. It's really quite simple, but I still want to share that with you, and possibly some closing remarks. Yeah. So we'll just let a couple of minutes run off here while you watch me harvest this, or empty the combine, that is. Our crone Big M has finished work, so we'll get him set up, picking that grass up and moving it. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.